Whispers of the ocean. The waiter returned with our drinks, setting them down with a gentle thud. Sarah's eyes lit up as she took a sip of the warm mocha, the steam dancing around her nose. The scent of chocolate and espresso filled the space between us, creating a comforting bubble of shared interests. "So what do you like about the ocean?" she asked, her voice a gentle melody in the bustling cafe. I took a deep breath, trying to organize my thoughts. Everything. The way the waves crash, the smell of the salt water, the creatures that live there. It's all just so alive. And the vastness of it, the mystery, it's like a whole other world down there. I paused, taking a sip of my own mocha, letting the sweetness melt away some of my nerves. Sarah nodded. "It is pretty amazing. But I don't know, it's like I've seen too many movies with sharks and people getting swept away by currents." She laughed nervously, and I couldn't help but chuckle with her, feeling a little more at ease. We talked about books, movies, and music, finding common ground in our shared love for indie rock and obscure sci-fi flicks. Her laugh was like the sound of the ocean waves crashing on the shore, soothing and rhythmic. I found myself getting lost in her stories, the way she talked with her hands, the way her eyes sparkled when she talked about something she was passionate about. As the afternoon sun painted the cafe walls with a warm glow, we decided to walk along the beach. The salty air grew stronger with each step closer to the shore. Liam was with friends, so we had a few hours to ourselves. The sound of the waves grew louder, and my heart quickened with excitement, while I noticed Sarah's steps grew heavier. She clutched her book tightly to her chest, almost as if it was a lifeline. The beach was a canvas of golden sand, and the horizon painted with shades of blue that blended into the sky. We found a spot near the water's edge, and I spread out a blanket from my bag. "You can sit here," I offered, and she sat down tentatively. The ocean was just a few feet away, the waves tickling the shore, whispering secrets that only it knew. I sat down beside her, the sand cold and comforting under my legs. We watched the horizon in silence for a moment, the only sound the steady rhythm of the waves. Then she spoke. "I want to tell you something." I turned to look at her, her seafoam green eyes searched mine. "What is it?" "I've never told anyone this before." She took a deep breath. "But every time I come to the beach, I feel like I'm going to drown. It's like the water is calling to me, but not in a nice way. It's like it wants to pull me in and never let me go," she said, her voice quivering with fear and something else, something I couldn't quite place. My heart broke a little for her, and I reached out and took her hand. "It's okay," I said softly. "I'm here." The sun began to set, painting the sky in a fiery array of oranges and pinks. The water looked like molten gold, and the waves seemed to whisper a lullaby. It was beautiful, but Sarah's grip tightened on my hand as if the beauty itself was a threat. Would you mind if I tried to show you the ocean isn't all bad?" I asked, hoping to ease her fears. She looked at me, contemplating, before finally nodding. We stood up and I led her closer to the water, the waves kissing our toes. "Just breathe," I whispered, "and listen to the ocean. It's not trying to scare you. It's just telling its story." Sarah took a deep breath, and I watched the tension in her shoulders ease slightly. She leaned into me, and together we watched the horizon melt into the sea, the colors blending into an orange haze. Her hand felt warm and reassuring in mine, and I knew that I would do anything to help her overcome her fear. "Look at the seagulls," I said, pointing to a group of birds dancing on the breeze. "They're not afraid. The ocean is their playground." Her grip loosened as she took in the sight. "They're so free," she murmured. "And so are we," I responded, smiling at her. "Let's sit down, and I'll tell you a story." We sat on the blanket, and I began to weave a tale of a young girl who had been afraid of the water, just like Sarah. The girl had met a mermaid who had shown her the beauty of the deep sea, the peacefulness of floating, and the joy of discovering new worlds. I spoke of coral reefs that looked like castles, and schools of fish that shimmered like stars. I talked of the gentle giants that roamed the ocean, and the friendship that could be found between humans and the creatures of the deep. As the story unfolded, Sarah's eyes grew wider, and she leaned closer, the fear in her eyes slowly replaced by wonder. When I finished, she was silent for a moment, then turned to me, her eyes gleaming with unshed tears. That was beautiful," she whispered. "It's the ocean's way of speaking to you," I said, squeezing her hand. "It's not always loud and scary. Sometimes it whispers and you just have to listen." The last light of the day disappeared, leaving us in the cool embrace of the twilight. The stars began to appear one by one, twinkling in the vast expanse above us. "Kaya," she said, looking into my eyes, I think I might be ready to listen." We sat there hand in hand, as the night wrapped around us like a warm blanket. The ocean whispered its secrets, and for the first time I felt like maybe, just maybe, Sarah was starting to hear them too. "What if we start small?" I suggested. "How about we go to the beach more often? Maybe just sit and listen to the waves together?" Sarah nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "Yeah, that sounds nice." We spent the next few weeks doing just that. Every weekend we'd drive to the coast, grab coffee, and sit on the beach. She'd bring her books, and I'd bring my sketchbook. We'd share stories, and I'd watch the way the light danced in her eyes as she talked about the world she found within the pages she devoured. And with each visit, her fear of the ocean seemed to shrink a little more. One day, as we sat on the blanket, I casually mentioned that the aquarium was holding a night event, where you could swim with the stingrays. Sarah's eyes grew wide, and she took a sharp breath in, but she didn't pull away. She looked at me, and I could see the curiosity fighting the fear. "Would you want to come?" I asked, hoping I wasn't pushing too hard. Her smile was tentative but hopeful. "Okay," she said. "Let's do it." The night of the event, we arrived at the aquarium, which was lit with soft blue lights, mimicking the glow of the ocean. The air was filled with excitement and a hint of nervousness from the visitors. Sarah held onto my arm tightly as we approached the stingray pool. "Remember," I whispered, "they're just looking for a little love." Sarah took a deep breath and stepped into the water. I followed her, my heart racing with excitement and pride. The stingrays glided around us, their velvety wings brushing against our legs. The first time she reached out and touched one, she giggled with joy. It was a sound I never wanted to forget. We swam together, her fear giving way to wonder, her eyes sparkling with the same excitement I felt every time I was near the ocean. And when she finally looked at me, her smile was brighter than the moon reflecting on the water's surface. "Thank you," she said, her voice filled with awe. "Thank you for showing me that the ocean isn't just something to be scared of." I leaned closer, my heart racing faster than the stingrays swimming around us. "Anytime," I whispered, "anytime at all." And as we swam, surrounded by the graceful creatures of the sea, I knew that this was just the beginning of a beautiful journey together. A journey of discovery, not just of the ocean, but of each other's hearts. And as we left the water hand in hand, the warmth of the aquarium lights was nothing compared to the warmth I felt inside, knowing that I had helped her find a new love for something that meant so much to me. Over the following weeks, our bond grew stronger with each encounter with the ocean. We started with the shallows, letting the waves kiss our toes before retreating back to the safety of the shore. Then we moved to wading, the cool water up to our ankles, feeling the power of the undertow that she had feared so much, but now faced with bravery. And finally, one sunny afternoon, she took a deep breath and allowed me to lead her further out, the water rising to our knees, then our waists, until we were floating together in the vast blue sea. Sarah's fear had morphed into respect, and her eyes no longer held the terror of the unknown, but the excitement of a newfound love. We talked about the creatures we saw, the way the water felt on our skin, and the way the horizon seemed to stretch on forever. It was as if the ocean had opened its arms to her, welcoming her into its embrace. And as we floated there, the waves gently rocking us, I knew that she was finally home. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, our relationship grew stronger, each wave of emotion crashing into us like the tides against the shore. We held each other tightly through the storms and basked in the warmth of the sun when the skies cleared. We were a perfect balance of land and sea, her fear and my love for the ocean blending into something beautiful and unbreakable. One night, under the light of a full moon, I took her to a secluded cove that I had discovered during one of my solo swims. It was a place where the ocean whispered sweet nothings to the shore, a place where the stars shimmered in the water like diamonds scattered on black velvet. We laid on the beach, the sand cool and welcoming under us, and I pulled out a small velvet box that had been burning a hole in my pocket for days. Her eyes grew wide as I opened it, revealing a necklace with a single pearl, nestled between two tiny silver dolphins. "Sarah," I began, my heart racing like the waves. "I know this isn't a lot, but it's everything to me. Will you be the one I swim with forever?" The look in her eyes said it all. She threw her arms around me, her tears mixing with the salt water on her cheeks. "Yes," she murmured. "Yes, Kaya, yes." And as we kissed, the ocean whispered its approval, the waves playing our favorite melody, and the stars above us shone down like 1,000 beacons of love, guiding us through the rest of our days. Our life together became a dance with the tides, each moment a new discovery. We'd wake up early to watch the sun rise over the horizon, casting a warm glow on the water that mirrored the warmth in our hearts. We'd spend lazy afternoons lounging on the beach, her nose buried in a book while I sketched the scenes around us. And as the nights grew colder, we'd bundle up and walk along the shore, hand in hand, sharing our hopes and dreams like seashells picked up along the way. The ocean had become our playground, a place of healing and growth. I taught her to surf, and she taught me to appreciate the quiet moments between the waves. We'd sit on the board, the saltwater spray kissing our cheeks, as she recited poetry that seemed to echo the rhythm of the sea. Her fear had become a memory, replaced by the thrill of riding the waves, the feeling of freedom and unity with the vastness of the ocean beneath her. One chilly evening, as we sat on the beach watching the sun dip into the sea, she took my hand and whispered, "Kaya, I think I'm ready to go deeper." "Deeper?" I questioned, my heart racing with excitement and a hint of nervousness. "Yeah," she said with a determined smile. "I want to go scuba diving with you. I want to see the world you love so much." The words were like a warm embrace, and I knew that together we could conquer any depth, face any challenge the ocean threw at us. We signed up for a class, and every weekend we'd drive to the coast, our excitement growing with every lesson. The day came when we were ready to take the plunge, and as we descended into the crystal clear water, hand in hand, I watched as her eyes grew wide with wonder, her fears replaced with pure joy. We swam through schools of fish that shimmered like rainbows, the coral reefs a tapestry of color beneath us. We saw turtles glide gracefully, and watched as sharks patrolled the depths with an air of majesty that took her breath away. With every new creature we encountered, I saw her love for the ocean grow, and with it our love for each other. In the quiet of the deep, with only the sound of our breathing through the regulators, she turned to me, her eyes wide with excitement. She took my hand, and together, we swam through the beauty of the sea, two souls forever intertwined by the love we had found in the most unlikely of places. And in that moment, as we hovered in the embrace of the ocean, I knew that our story was just beginning, and the adventures ahead were as boundless as the waters we explored.